Hi, I thought we'd take a look at a slightly more advanced compiling and debugging scenario today. This one revolves around building code on a remote platform. That might be a continuous integration machine or just a shared box, and then debugging it on a local desktop. So what we have here is a folder structure on OS X. We've got a single COBOL file here that we're going to compile along with some other output files. We're going to do it on the command line so that we can see what's going on, but obviously this could be part of a makefile or a continuous integration system. So we're going to specify that our output directory is this intermediate Java directory. We're going to generate an OMAP file so we know how to fold the COBOL source code and collapse it, stuff like that. We're going to generate an SMAP file, which is the breakpoint mapping file between the COBOL and the Java. And we're going to generate some code that Eclipse uses to understand what COBOL files and copybooks are tied to what Java code. So there we go. That's built. Let's have a look at the directory structure now. We've got a bunch of files. I'm going to make one housekeeping change. I'm going to move the final class output into our output folder just to keep things a little tidier. That's it on the build machine. Let's go look at the client. This is a virtual box running Windows. We have a mapped drive W over to our Unix or OS X system. Let's take another look there. Yep, we've got all our code, so that's good. Let's look at Eclipse. We have an empty project here. We're going to make some changes to it to get it ready to use linked sources instead. So we're going to delete this COBOL source folder. We'll recreate that soon. I'm going to go make a couple of other changes in the properties here. We're going to change and turn off the builders for this project. That stops us accidentally building anything local. We want to be using everything remote here. We're going to remove the intermediate Java code from our build path. That will allow us to delete that directory. So let's remove that. All right, now we're going to go ahead and create 3 new ones. We're going to replace COBOL source with a new COBOL source, this time linked to our source code over on OS X. So let's grab that. Okay, that's that one. Let's create our new one called intermediate Java code, and we'll link that to the intermediate folder. There we go. And we're going to create one more called executables, and you'll see how we use that in a moment. Executables, and we're going to link that to that output folder with the class file in it. Okay, that's those 3 done. Let's go back to the project properties. We are now going to add our intermediate code back into our source folders, our build path, and we're going to change the default output folder to this linked debug executables that were created. So that's now nicely linked to our class files. So we can see our COBOL source here. The one interesting thing we have to do is we have to do a quick refresh on our intermediate Java code so our system knows that we've got it. All right. Now we can take a look at our COBOL source code, and you'll note that we are not able to add a breakpoint because Eclipse doesn't know about the mapping. We can solve that by configuring the project, saying add the COBOL file mappings, and pointing it at the folder where we saved that Eclipse file, which was in the out folder. So we'll do an import. It's imported, and now we can add a breakpoint. All right, let's close this file down, and let's try and debug this now. So we'll debug it as a COBOL application, and we're going to see a problem. You're either going to see an exception, or it's just going to stay silent and give you a blank source code file because we do not know how to find that source code. So let's go fix that finally. Go back here. We'll edit our debug configuration. There's the debug configuration we're using, and we're going to add an environment variable here, and it is called debug source folders, and you can add more than one folder here. We don't need to. We just need to tell it where our COBOL source code is, and our COBOL source code is right there. So we'll apply that, and now when we hit debug, it'll come up, and there's our source code, and we can step through and run as normal. So if we go back to the project real quick, you'll see, we've got a linked folder to COBOL source. We've got a linked folder to the intermediate Java code. And obviously the executable folder is linked. We saw that using that executables. So we're able to debug on a local user's workstation, but we are pointing at shared code on a common build machine.